Geik, present.
Richard Cardone, present.
Mai Bryan, present.
Geraldine Brown, present. And we have no ROTC today, so we'll go with a Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, please make sure that you've signed in if you're here at the meeting. Looks like we have 2 call to the audiences. Mr. Burgess?
Madam President, members of the board, to keep with the time restrictions, I'm only going to highlight some of the misrepresentations by this administration to the board concerning me. Sam Dell's report is full of lies. Mr. Richards' statements are fabricated stories. None of my due process was followed. I was not being paid while on administrative leave, as he stated in the meeting. My health insurance was canceled on the 1st of July. Mr. Dell's so-called interview that was presented to the board and where he claimed my answers. This was false. Those are not my answers. The district misplaced my last 2 years of employee files. Mr. Richards accused me of breaking in and taking them. Mr. Richards withheld information from the board.
It's Dr. Richards.
From the board and the administration not only knew about my association with Mojave Youth Development, but they also signed it. I also have an agreement signed by the district and Mojave Youth Development to provide concessions on district property. I also have a letter from Teresa Smeets recanting her statements made about my actions, stating she was told exactly what to write and did so out of fear of losing her job. I provided all of this information and facts that I have to the newspaper, but if any time the board would like to know what is truly going on, I can be made available to answer your questions.
For the record, I don't know Geraldine Brown. Surprisingly, we've both lived in this community for a long time and our paths have never crossed. I had a chance to watch the last couple board meetings, and I don't know if I'm slow, but I feel really confused. I don't understand the conflict of interest that's occurring. In fact, if John Warren, who I understand is the county superintendent, if he's not her employer and he's not Dr. Richards' employer, how is she recused from evaluating him? I just don't understand that. She also mentioned that she has no influence on who gets any kind of grants. So these anonymous people who've reached out from Havasu or wherever, I really wish they'd come forward and give us, I know they want to remain anonymous, which I feel is kind of invalid, but I wish they'd tell us our story so I can understand this, but I just don't understand why there's a conflict of interest, why she's not allowed to evaluate. And in fact, that last board meeting, I had a really hard time swallowing. I've got to mention this. I'd feel remiss if I didn't, but I don't know how 3 people who call themselves men feel comfortable sucker punching a lady when she's not there to defend herself. Dr. Richard, I think you should elaborate on what emails suggest that she's a liar, because that's what we said about her in that last board meeting. So please tell the community and help us understand why she should not be able to evaluate Dr. Richard.
Well, I can respond. She herself said there's a conflict of interest, so maybe you should watch. Are you not letting me respond to criticism? You're incorrect. So you're not letting me respond? Okay, well, I think you've made an open meeting law violation then. I can respond to criticism, and you're wrong. So if you know what's going on, or if you'd show up, maybe you would know that. You yourself said there's a conflict of interest. Yes, you did. Oh, well, that's even better. Okay.
And there is no conflict now because I've resigned.
Well, why'd you
From
resign if
ADE.
everything was fine?
Because I did not want to be curtailed on the board. Wanted to be able to do what I needed to do here on the board. So do you have more comments?
Well, now I'm allowed to talk or no?
Go ahead.
Well, I just said, you were the one, then why'd you resign then if it's no conflict of interest and everything's fine?
Okay. Let's move on to approval of the agenda. 1.5.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second? I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Could we have discussion before we move to,
I'm sorry, what?
could we get discussion before we move to vote?
The agenda?
Yeah, the consent agenda.
Oh, we're not there yet. Well, this is just the approval of today's agenda.
Yeah, I have concerns.
Okay.
For discussion?
Yeah, we haven't got to the consent agenda yet. Have we got to it here? Okay, what concerns do you have?
On,
Well, I think this has been voted on.
What's that?
You voted on the approval of the agenda, so what are we doing?
well, she moved to ask for a vote before discussion. That's why I stopped and didn't
I know,
vote.
but we
Yeah.
already voted.
So we've only had 2 people vote right now.
All 3 of us voted aye. So that, it's approved. Am I wrong? Didn't they all vote aye?
Okay.
I did too.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, what are we doing here?
I'm sorry, Marahi. Yeah. So we can, when we get to that item, we can pull it for consent. Okay. All right, superintendent's report.
Madam President, members of the board, just to respond to some of the calls to the public, just briefly, I've only been here for a few years, and we can just look at the state of our schools when I arrived here a couple of years ago, where they were riddled with gang activity, where you had corrupt, crooked contractors taking advantage of the school district and doing shoddy work and leaving walls half-built, AC, air conditioners falling apart, drugs, massive turnover, no compensation increases for classified employees or in teachers for decades. The list goes on and on and on. And all I can say is that people in this community in positions of influence that were on boards and in positions of leadership, and I won't name all of the names, but you could look at the history and look at previous board meeting minutes, but one of those names was Burgess. They were in positions of influence and leadership, either on school boards or in positions of leadership. It was on their watch that our schools deteriorated, that our test scores went down, that our buildings fell apart, and that gangs were allowed to take over our schools. I think this board has done a great job the past 3 years of setting the ship in the right direction, of confronting corrupt administrators and removing them from the organization, of getting our finances on the right track. And while far from perfect, I'd just like to note that this board has a lot to be proud of, and I stand by many of the decisions that we made in terms of confronting people that have not been good stewards of the taxpayer dollars and confronting people who did not put student safety and student learning first. And then another quick update I wanted to share is got some good news from the School Facilities Division. They've approved roof repairs for River Valley High School, and we are hopeful that they will soon approve the repairs for the roof at Mojave. And there were some legislatures, Leo Barascucci, I think I'm saying that right, and Hildy Angus have reached out and gotten involved and maybe applied some pressure. So we're hoping that with their involvement, it will speed up the full approval of new roofs and full repairs for our facilities that are much needed. That's all I have for my superintendent's report.
Okay, 1.7, the governing board will go into executive session. Do we have a motion?
Motion to go to executive session.
Any seconds?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can I get a motion for the,
Motion to go forward with the agreement as discussed in executive session.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right. Looks like we have a couple of donations. Donation of $2,000 from the GEO Group Foundation to the River Valley High School Administration Scholarship, and a donation valued at $854.08 from Redmond Construction to River Valley High School Athletics for the cleaning and sanitization of water bottles and jugs. Can I get a motion to write thank you letters?
Motion to write a thank you letter.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so do we have any, on the consent agenda, Marahi, what did you want to?
Just if Dr. Richards can explain a little bit on 5.6, so I'm able to understand a little better that list of cooperatives that are in the attachment.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board. Cooperatives are basically contractors or groups that provide services or supplies, and they've been approved by the state at the rates have already been approved, and so it benefits the district in that we will get a better rate because there's like a pool of people purchasing from them, is my best way to explain it. Darlene, you jump in because you could probably explain it better than I can, but essentially we're asking the board to approve the district engaging with the cooperatives. What that does is, since the bidding has already occurred, we do not have to get 3 quotes for things.
They've already done the due diligence on it, so
That's the word I was looking for.
yeah, so the state says, okay, they've already done the due diligence, they've checked out prices. You can, use them without the 3 quotes.
Is there somebody you have a concern about? Is there?
No, I just wanted to make
Oh.
sure I understand what the list means. Thank you.
Okay,
And do you know if any of these people are, have any political background that they're trying to push some agenda, or don't you know?
I don't have any information about that, but typically it's just vendors trying to get business with the school districts.
Okay.
it's kind of like the one we approved the last time, it was the food services.
Yeah.
And so they should be approved by the board every year that you use those cooperatives. Just so that the board's aware that they're using them.
And we don't have to use these people, right? No. Okay. All right. I'd like to pull 5.2 and 5.7. On 5.2, on the field house report, Amber, how are things going with like the air conditioning? Are we keeping that down when there's no one using it during the day? And how about the wear and tear on the AstroTurf? Because that's my concern. Every time I come here when there's some kind of event, it seems like those people are kind of rough on our AstroTurf, and I'm not sure if cost-benefit-wise, if it's good to even have those people doing stuff. It seems like they beat up our facility more than we're getting compensated for. Well, I mean, what do you think on some of these?
Am I on? Aaron, am I on? We've actually cut back on a lot of events. Currently, the city's in the building for the entire month. They are every June. So you're going to see a lot of activity this month, but we've cut back a lot of events. We're only doing sponsored events or our school events.
Okay. 'Cause,
So-
as I said before, my worry is that, we rent this thing out for like a pittance, but then 2 years from now, we have to spend $5 million on the AstroTurf to replace it. It seems like we've shot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah, those are our concerns too. That's why we've been having a lot of conversations about who we allow to come into the facility and if
Good,
it makes sense.
Good.
Cost
Well, as long
wise.
as you're like on that and
Yeah.
honed in on that, that's all I was trying to get at.
Yeah,
And
we
thank
are.
you very much for doing that.
Thank you.
That's all I had, Madam President, on 5.2. And on 5.7, maybe just a clerical question. On 1145 and 1146, there didn't seem to be a dollar amount on these. On 31144, there was a dollar amount, and on the other two, there weren't. I just assumed that was maybe just something was overlooked. Any?
Yeah, I saw that too when I was looking it over. I think that's a duplicate, but this is I think it was attached twice, one with a dollar amount and one without, is how I looked at it. So that might have just been an extra attachment there. 31145 is the same thing, the same description in the bottom box there. So
Well, that's what I thought also, but I thought, well, why would they have a different purchase order number? That's
Yeah.
what I thought. If they just needed more area narrative to write something, I understood that under the
Yeah.
comments, but when I saw that on the next two,
Sue-Ann, can you address? Sue-Ann might be able to explain it.
Hello. So we have ongoing repairs with that clear circuit. They came out, they replaced one of the wires, and then we still had those issues going on where some of our facilities were having like half power. So like our computers weren't turning on, so they had to come back out. So we have like ongoing repairs from that one incident going on. So it like, what's it called? When it shot the breaker, and then some of the
Okay.
wires just like fried.
were they responsible for that?
No, it was when, so the water on the chiller just overflowed. It overflowed, it attacked the breaker, and then the breaker went out to all of like it attacked like the main breaker, and then we have a bunch of smaller breakers on top of that. And so it just messed
Okay.
up a bunch of the wires. So we have ongoing repairs. I can have those to you at the next board meeting though, like the dollar amounts.
So they're
Okay.
still working on those two POs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's no big deal. I just wanted to, just see what that was about. That's all.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Thank you. No, it's okay. Well, if it's not done, then I understand. That's all I had, Madam President, on the consent agenda.
Okay, so 5.8, approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, old business, 6.1, discussion and possible action on second read of policy 1-302, governing board meeting and open meeting law requirements.
I think
Richards?
everything is in order on that. I think,
Oh.
Michelle, you got it worded perfectly. I think everybody can participate in the agenda, and it doesn't make it unduly difficult for you. Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I would say the board members should use their discretion. If you have some long-winded thing, it's got to be in writing. If it's, hey, can you just add the S3 group to discuss? No, it doesn't have to be necessarily in writing. It shouldn't be that official. But like I said, if it's some long-winded policy change you want on there, I think it should be in writing. I don't know what you guys think.
I agree, and I like to move it to, as a motion, to approve as written.
Second. No, sorry.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Discussion and possible action on 26-27 proposed expenditures budget. Dr. Richards?
Ms. Moore.
Hello again. Okay, so I'm here to present the budget. Beginning with the tax rate, there's no significant change from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 26. We're actually slightly lower, so fiscal year 25 was at 1.6604. This year, we're at 1.6243, so we're slightly lower. This is an estimate for now, but we do expect it to stay about the same. Next, we have our average daily membership, our ADM. Last year's ADM was 1,735 students. This year, we're estimating a slight decrease of approximately 25 students. So that brings our average to, or our projected ADM to 1,710. This estimate is based on a 9-year trend, which shows an average annual decline about 19.5 students. Next is our maintenance and operation budget, our Fund 001. The fiscal year 26 budget is $14.6 million, which is a slight decrease from our this year's prior budget, which was $16 million. The reduction is primarily due to projected decline in the ADM. a smaller budget balance carry forward in the absence of a one-time $3,000 state allocation that has not been approved by the state legislature. Although we do anticipate recovering approximately $1.5 million to our budget due to correcting previously miscoded IGA funds. They were miscoded, so we will be getting some of our budget back. Next is our capital budget. For fiscal year 26, our allocation is 1.7 million. Last year's was 2.2. The decrease is just because we've been repairing our facilities that have been neglected. Other than that, that is what I have for you guys. You guys have any questions?
We decreased the taxes for the taxpayers.
It's slightly
Excellent.
decreased, yes.
Excellent. That's so fantastic.
We love that. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I was
You
excited.
seem like you've been doing this forever.
Oh,
So
thank
keep
you.
up the good work.
Yeah, very
Thank you.
comprehensive. Great job.
Oh, thank you.
And the ADM, you think is about 25 students? Is
Yeah.
that what it's looking like
I
right now?
estimated about 25. We've been going down about 19.5.
Yeah, that's, I wish we could get more families in here.
Yes.
All
That
right,
would
I'll
help.
make a motion to approve the proposed expenditure budget.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any
Anytime
opposed?
anytime you say tax cut with this board, you're good.
Even if it's only a little bit.
It's going to asymptote to 0. That's where we're going to go.
Okay, 7.2, discussion and possible action on student well-being policy. Dr. Richards?
Madam President, members of the board, this is for a couple of reasons. One being there's been a change to the law where previously if a staff member expected some type of abuse or harm to a student, they could report it to the school resource officer, and that satisfied the mandatory reporter law. But the legislature just made a change that reporting abuse or harm to a child to the SRO no longer satisfies the mandatory reporter law, that you are required to call it in. Also, and if you guys could pull up that attachment so the board can see the language on 7.2. That's on mine.
Yeah,
That's weird. That's not on there? Oh, okay.
because I pulled it up off of Doug's.
Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah. Oh, you're right, I don't.
Can maybe you go print it real quick? Okay.
Well, we can
I'll,
look here, and if
okay.
maybe Dr. Cardone can see with tomorrow.
I'll just read it to you guys so that you know it until she brings you the text. A little
We
technical
have it
difficulty.
on the,
You have it on there?
Yeah, it was on
Okay.
the board.
Oh,
docs.
okay.
it's on the agenda.
Okay, so you guys can see it.
Yeah.
I'll just read it into the record. The student well-being policy, the proposal is that any time a student is involved in a physical altercation, school employees shall contact the parents and/or emergency medical services as soon as possible to assess the students for the need for medical care. All fights and assaults shall be reported to law enforcement by school administration. So we've had some incidents where maybe students get into a fight. It could be it could be serious or it could be minor. And what will happen is maybe not all parents are contacted, or EMS is not contacted, or it's not reported to the police. And then sometimes a day later, a few days later, the parents will come back and say, oh, my son had a serious, or my daughter had a serious injury, and the school didn't do anything. Or this terrible thing happened, and my child was really injured, nothing was reported to the police or anything, or that type of thing. So, to protect our liability, but also to make sure that, maybe Denny and I get in a fight outside or something, and he hits me in the head, and everyone thinks it's fine, but maybe I have a mild concussion. So really to protect the school's liability, but also to make sure our students are okay. And also the added benefit of complying with the new mandatory reporter law. I recommend this policy that our school employees whenever there's a physical altercation or someone's injured, that we're doing our due diligence. We're reporting it to parents as soon as possible. We're involving law enforcement and emergency medical services just to make sure everybody is okay. And that would be my recommendation.
I have just a question. It says as soon as possible.
Yes.
Isn't that ambiguous a little bit?
It is, and I did think about that. That's a very good point. So if there is a fight on campus, it can take a little bit to figure out what happened, what's going on, especially if multiple students are involved. So I think we have to trust our administrators' judgment in those situations to make sense of things, restore order, get people in the right spots, and then make that phone call. So, for example, if one student is obviously injured, yes, a call immediately. Another student may appear fine, but you might find out a few minutes later that they're not. So I think I did think about that. I think that phrase, as soon as possible, is ambiguous because we do want to give our administrators and our school employees a little bit of wiggle room and use their judgment to make that call when they think is appropriate.
My main concern is the medical. It is a medical treatment to be given in a timely manner.
Right, and we have incidents that happen throughout the school year, and most of the time our administrators and our school employees do a great job of deciphering when to call 911. Unfortunately, and you would think this would be an obvious thing, but unfortunately there was a recent incident where someone was seriously injured and the administrator on duty didn't call anybody. And so that really, to me, highlighted the need to put this in writing.
And that is my concern. That is specifically why I'm asking, because they can come back and say, well, 3 hours was reasonable. What was as soon as I could determine the call, and that may be a little late for a medical treatment.
Sure. Yeah. And your point is a valid one. I just think that phrase, as soon as possible, it is ambiguous, but I do trust that our employees will make the right decision and call quickly. This is a big upgrade from not having anything in policy right now.
I'm trying to think of a phrase. I don't know.
Well,
For a phrase.
you guys tell me what it is. You could scratch out as soon as possible and maybe put contact the parents and emergency medical services immediately upon discovery. And that way, it establishes a point in time in which the discovery. And when you say administration, we're talking about the teachers are going to report it to a higher up, right? And then the call would be made. Is my understanding correct?
Yeah. Actually, no. I tell a staff member, you don't have to get permission from the principal to call 911. Like if a kid has a medical problem, call 911 immediately.
Does our system still, it used to, if somebody called a 911 from a classroom, the front office the call went through the front office too, so.
I think we have that capability. I'd have to see if it's set up and operational right now.
Okay, I didn't know
Yeah.
if that was still in the new system or not.
Okay.
Saying yes.
So there's just the chain of command. Okay, there's a classroom.
There is a chain of command, but I've directed our staff that when it comes to the health and well-being of a student, there is no chain of command. You call 911 right away.
Right. So the list of the decision-making process. I'm a teacher. There's a fight, 2 students. Once it's safe and then you call 911 right then.
If there's an obvious injury, yes. Or like, let's say, a kid's having a seizure, you don't have to, call the principal to ask to call 911. You just call.
Right. So to call 911, it's not necessarily if there's an injury. It's just if there's been what we would determine just arbitrarily by that teacher's impression that there was a fight.
That's why I use that kind of ambiguous phrase, as soon as possible, because if we just pushed each other versus I broke your nose.
I understand.
That's for our staff to kind of, every situation, every scenario is going to be different, which is why I felt okay with that phraseology.
If we said something about as soon as reasonable, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just how litigious things are, the words are important. I mean, I think this is pretty reasonable, but you know how unreasonable it can be in a court of law in terms of, what you think sounds good relative to what a, court's going to say. And I don't know how you guys feel about that. If we just leave it as soon as possible, or maybe immediately upon discovery, if you think there's a distinction or a difference.
I agree. I hear what you're saying. I agree with you, but I agree with the language here. I mean, it's kind of hard to figure out what's going on. You have 10 kids in a fight, and do you call the police right then? And then you find out, no, this kid just pushed him. No one got hurt. They were just cursing.
Right.
And then the police are coming to our campus like all the time instead of the time they need to be there. So I kind of see what they're saying. It's just as soon as possible to assess what happened. And then, I think this is pretty clear that if something bad happens, they can't 2 days later, sorry, this is as soon as possible. I mean, it would look ridiculous for them to try to do that. So I don't think they're going to be able to squiggle out of that if somebody is being delinquent and following this policy. But I hear what you're saying, too. I mean, yes, it should be immediately in a perfect world, but I can see why they want that there because it makes sense.
Yeah, and I agree with your concern of, making frivolous calls to law enforcement over little things and tying up their resources. Common sense is important here. So, okay, I'm fine with it, I think.
Well, and I like where it says contact parents and emergency services, and then administration shall contact law enforcement, so. Don't want every teacher calling law enforcement. All right. Do we have any more discussion?
Make a motion to accept the student well-being policy.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, 8.1. Date, time, and location for future meetings. July 14th work for everybody? Meeting at 6?
Let me look at my calendar.
Let me check.
It's the regular day, but sometimes in the summer things are...
And July 14th is okay with me, but in August, if we can... That 11th one is not okay. If we can move that to the 18th or 25th in August, I'm just telling you ahead of time, because I'm going to be out of town that week of the 11th. So if it's not too much trouble, if the 18th is okay with everybody.
So maybe we can set that at the July... You'll be at the July meeting?
Yeah, July's
Okay.
fine. It's just
So,
the August one. I was just trying
So-
to give you a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. Have the heads up, and then we can determine in July what date works better for everybody.
Yeah, it's fine with me. July's fine.
All right, can we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.